I was going to first ask all the Wofford students and parents and alumni to stand, but I think our guest knows he has a friendly crowd. We did actually overlook one more Wofford graduate. Calhoun Kennedy is a Wofford graduate. He's the Associate Director of Development and a former baseball player for the Terriers. So I'll take him as my guest since you got mom's lunch. I've got Calhoun. Calhoun Kennedy. Cash. So our speaker.
Most importantly, that he's a Wofford graduate.
Rusty. Mark another one, Rusty. Our speaker today is Nayef Samhat, the 11th president of Wofford College. Wofford College is an independent Phi Beta Kappa co-educational institute founded in 1854 on a $100,000 bequest from the estate of Benjamin Wofford. Wofford's located in Spartanburg. It's supported by the United Methodist Church. Current enrollment is approximately 1,600 students. Colors are old gold and black. The mascot is the Terrier. Most of you knew that. Here are a few other facts regarding Wofford. The cornerstone of Old Main was laid July 4th, 1851. Guy Wilkes of Chester, South Carolina, president of his senior class in 1942, was killed on the beaches of Normandy. Wofford College was the first independent college or university to voluntarily integrate in South Carolina. I thought that was quite an American timeline. Now, a personal fact for me about Wofford is within hours of stepping on the campus as a freshman, I laid eyes on a beautiful girl from Pickens County that would years later become my wife. Within minutes of seeing her, I found myself seated beside her as we took our math placement exam. Pure coincidence, I still tell her. She went on to score 90% on that test. I got the other 10%. She picks on me about it to this day, and I tell her I just don't test well when I've just fallen madly in love. Fortunately, she went on to marry me anyway. She would be here as another Wofford graduate, but I have a 15-year-old getting his license as I speak. So, President Samhat received a bachelor's degree in international economics from George Washington University, a master's degree in international affairs from Columbia University, a PhD in comparative political economy from Northwestern University. President Samhat came to Wofford from Kenyon College in Ohio, where he served as provost and professor of political science and international studies. He is a native of Detroit, Michigan. He is married to Prema Samhat. They have 3 daughters. Please welcome, as I just learned, a fellow Rotarian, Nayef Samhat.
Thanks, Martin, and thank you all for having me here today. I have to tell you, we run a tight ship here. You have this scheduled down to the minute, and I'm going to try and follow it, although sometimes I've been known to diverge. It's a good thing we had homecoming this past weekend, because if I wouldn't know better, this is homecoming here with all these Wofford grads. Can you hear me? How's that? Okay. Should I say I can say my line again. That's a good thing we had homecoming this past weekend. Otherwise, I would consider this a homecoming with all these Wofford grads in the audience. My voice is probably a little hoarse. Wes witnessed my Mike Ayers impersonation at the Terrier Ball on Friday, and when I got there, Terry LeWitt, who organizes that wonderful event, she said, "I would need you to speak for 30 seconds." And I said, "Well, okay, what anything in particular, or what time frame?" She said, "Say whatever you want, I just need you to talk for 30 seconds. I said, "Okay, what am I going to say?" And my wife said, "Well, do a Mike Ayers impersonation. Try that." And I said, "Well, okay." And I was feeling pretty good about it until Mike Ayers got up and started yelling and screaming for 15 minutes, and I thought, oh my gosh, there is no way I can follow this guy. Fortunately, a little time passed. I have no idea what I said. All I know is that I said it loud and into the microphone, and I wasn't able to talk for the rest of the evening. But it was a great, great weekend up at Wofford College, a fabulous homecoming. And of course, we won the football game, which is great news. And we're in the running for a Southern Conference title in football, so that's wonderful. So what I thought I'd do today is is tell you a little bit about Wofford College and where we're at and where we're going. We've had an extraordinary week in the wake of the board meeting, and a couple of really significant announcements, I think, in the past 6 or 7 days that I would highlight. But before I do, I thought maybe I'd situate Wofford College in the constellation of higher education, because higher education has come under attack from all quarters in recent years for a variety of reasons. Books about whether or not students are actually learning. I was at one of the colleges mentioned, my previous institution was mentioned in a book called Academically Adrift, where they said the massive recreational building has a sushi bar in it, and yet there were only 5 philosophy professors. And my chair of the philosophy department at that previous institution came up to me and he said, "You see this? You see this? We need more faculty in philosophy." And I said, "No, we don't. But we probably need to sell more sushi down there." That's the real issue we have at hand. So it's come under attack for the fact of, is that better? For the fact that we may not be educating students as we claim to be. We've come under attack because of the cost of higher education, the rising cost of higher education in the United States, and we've come under attack because of increasing student debt burdens as they graduate. And are we accessible? So that's kind of the broad context. And many of these stories appear in the New York Times, they appear in the Wall Street Journal, they're in the popular press. And so college presidents often gather and talk to each other about what's wrong with these popular tales. And you know, we all agree we need to stop preaching to the choir and start talking to the public so they understand exactly what it is we're doing and our successes. Because fundamentally, I don't think there is a more successful sector in the United States historically when it comes to transforming the lives of individuals, and in many ways transforming the economy of this country through the creation of human capital, through the research and development of new ideas and new technologies and new products and programs that eventually make their way into the private sector. So there's a lot to be said for higher education. I think one of the problems with the broad brush critique is that people fail to understand higher education as a really diverse sector, extraordinarily diverse. There are over 4,000 accredited institutions of higher education. These might be 2-year institutions, vocational institutions, regional publics, flagship publics, privates, small liberal arts colleges like Wofford College. It is a very, very diverse sector that serves roughly 22 million people who are traditional age as well as adult learners. Secondly, of these roughly 22 million people, just barely 2% are actually going to a college like Wofford College. So within this constellation of higher education institutions, small residential liberal arts colleges make up about 250, 260 institutions, with a little, right around 2% of that college-age population. So we are, and Wofford College is, part of what I call a niche environment, market, or product in higher education. The other thing about our institutions, really almost no matter what they are, but certainly residential institutions, is that these are incredibly complex organizations, very complex organizations. So for instance, when I look around Wofford College and I talk to parents and I say, well, think about the things we do. We are like a hotel complex, an apartment complex, a restaurant complex, a catering complex, a technology complex. We provide security services, counseling services, medical services, athletic services, recreational services. We do entertainment, theater, music, the arts. We're a physical plant. And we educate young women and men as well. So these are incredibly complex organizations, and at different scales, that complexity increases multiple times. And so when people talk about what goes on at a higher educational institution, we have to understand that, number one, the sector is very diverse, and the institutions themselves are extraordinarily complex. And when it comes to, say, managing costs or managing the economic operation of the institution, each of those sectors or different services that we provide are defined by different business cycles, different cost structures, different demands in the marketplace. And so reconciling all those is not an easy task, which is why I work with great people around the college like Calhoun Kennedy. And it's good to be present because I get to talk about it while they're back at the office taking care of it, I hope. What's important, however, about where Wofford is in this constellation of institutions is that in many ways I think we're uniquely positioned. We do amazing things at Wofford College. I have used the buzzwords over the past year. We are defined by excellence, we're defined by engagement, and we're defined by transformation. And by that I mean our academic record is excellent. In fact, we consistently rank in the top 10%, the 90th percentile of national measures of academic performance and student engagement. The National Survey of Student Engagement, the Collegiate Learning Assessment, our various departmental assessments consistently put our students in the top 10% among peer institutions and national benchmarks in terms of performance. That tells me that when we say we're educating young women and men, we are actually doing it. And they are acquiring not only the content knowledge, but the skills to make a difference in life after Wofford. I talk about engagement. In fact, our students are engaged in so many ways, it's mind-boggling. They become leaders on campus and they carry those skills and practices out to the world around them. When it comes to international education and international experiences, Wofford ranks number 7 in the country among liberal arts institutions in the percent of credit that students earn abroad. Our international programs are consistently ranked in the top 10 nationally. And of that, we're very proud because we think students need that exposure to the world, a rapidly changing world. Our civic engagement and student learning enterprises around the community and beyond are consistently ranked among the top among peer institutions. And a recent survey showed that nearly 65% of the students at Wofford College did some form of social service and civic engagement activity by the time they were in their junior year. And to me, that is gratifying because I think very often, I say this to my kids, young people go to college as kind of a rite of passage. It's an expectation nowadays. But what's important is you can sometimes take for granted that rite of passage and forget that you're very privileged to have access to an extraordinary education, and you need to be in touch and give back in different ways, and that young people are doing it in large numbers on the Wofford campus is truly gratifying, and one of the signal achievements, I think, of our student life and civic engagement program. And then, of course, I talk about transformation, and I say different things when it comes to transformation. Number one is our record of placement is extraordinary. 6 months after students graduate, we survey them by January. So for instance, this past year, January of 2014, over 93% of the students responding to the survey of those graduating in 2013 were employed or in graduate school. That's an extraordinary record of accomplishment, I think, of setting young people onto a path that will lead them to doing great things in life. I always tell parents and I tell students when they come in, I want you to come to this college and I want you to write on a sheet of paper what it is you think you're going to be doing when you graduate. And I want you to put it in a book and put that book on a shelf and not look at it for 4 years. Open it up after you graduate, and I bet you'll be doing something different than you ever imagined. And I think that happens with the vast majority of our students. I talk about a liberal arts education as something fundamental to the social fabric of this country. That is, we teach skills, we teach knowledge. What we don't teach is the first job. We don't prepare you for that first job. It's not our goal, it's not our intention. And so we provide a broad-based liberal arts education. Now I say that and parents kind of, their jaws drop, and well, we're paying all this money and my kid's got to get a job. And then well, let me tell you, I've got 3 daughters. 2 of them have graduated, 1 is in college now. They never wanted to be around their father when they were going to college for some reason. But, and I tell parents, listen, no one was happier than I was when our 2 daughters got their own medical insurance. I was very happy. Their mother, I can remember the day when the one, and then, really within a couple of days, the other one got a new job in medical insurance. We had a good dinner that night, their mother. But I also say I can't get that cell phone bill off my tab. And that's even more than medical insurance, it seems. But my point is that young people find their way. Young people find their way, and it takes time. We just assume that that first job out of college will define their life when it's only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. And if the national data tells us anything, it's that by the time kids reach 27 or 28 years of age, they typically will have at least 2 or 3 jobs, maybe going into graduate school, and they're really not finding their career path until they get 29 to 30. That's not universal, but that's what the national data tells us. So that's unique in that it gives students an opportunity to experience life in its different ways and to find their path. Our role as educators is to make sure that they have the skills to move from one position to the next and to prepare them for the world beyond when challenges appear to them not as threats but as opportunities, and that they have the skills to embrace those opportunities and to make a difference in the world. And that's what we're all about. So when I arrived a little over a year ago, the task was to organize the community to imagine what the future of Wofford College might be like. So we spent a year last year and into this early part of the fall undertaking a strategic planning process that transformed itself into what we call a strategic vision process. We talked to members of the Alumni Executive Council, Parents Advisory Council, board members, students, faculty, community members, staff, coaches, all kinds of folks. And they gathered up in groups and teams and chatted about what Wofford College might be like, not 5 years from now, but really 10, 15, 20 years from now. Because as president, I think about the college in terms of what's it going to be like 25 years from now? What are the students going to be like? Where are they going to come from? How will we educate them? Will we be well positioned to deal with their needs 25 years from now? And in fact, we came up with a strategic vision that is defined by 5 crucial areas. Academic excellence, as you might imagine, developing a new core curriculum for the institution that is innovative, challenging, dynamic, and responsive to what we perceive to be the real issues of the middle of the 21st century. Things like environment and sustainability, technology and society, poverty and development, these kinds of global issues that will have an impact on the lives of young people for decades to come. We've talked about diminishing, in the second section, diminishing the line between what goes on in student life and what goes on in the classroom. Recognizing that student learning is an integrative, comprehensive experience that occurs outside the classroom as much as inside the classroom. I think students also have a lot of fun outside the classroom, so they do all kinds of things. But we want to create programs where the living learning experience is comprehensive and integrative and follows students throughout their 4 years. We want to make sure they have opportunities to become leaders, We have a unique, most extraordinary career development, professional development program in the space at the college, which we will extend to touch every student the moment they arrive on campus and follow them through their 4 years, so students can see the connection between what they're doing at Wofford College and the wealth of opportunities beyond. So they understand that the liberal arts experience is precisely what will best prepare them for a world of rapid changes. And of course, we want to recruit the best students. We want to use these programs and opportunities at Wofford to recruit the very best students. This most recent class at Wofford College, a freshman class, was the largest in our history, 487 students. We were only planning on 430, so something good happened. We have too many students, actually. Next year, we're looking at that number being about 430 to 440. But it's a measure of how people think of Wofford College and the quality of education and the opportunities they will have, that so many students decided to come to Wofford College and experience the transformative impact of our education. And then, of course, there's governance, remaking how we do things on our campus, strengthening our campus community and fabric. And then finally, there are facilities, because what would a strategic vision be without facilities, needs, and we're always happy to talk about buildings. We talk about the need for a new basketball arena, a new or renovated Marsh Hall, a new science building. But I go back to Marsh, I think about Marsh, I think that's the safest building in the Western Hemisphere. It's pure cinder block and concrete, and I've got my room pegged out there in the event I need to hide. A new science building, and importantly, a new Center for the Arts. And so when we announced the approval of our strategic vision after the board meeting last week, we were also able to make an important announcement, the gift of Mr. and Mrs. Jerry Richardson for the Rosalind S. Richardson Center for the Arts on Wofford's campus. The first time there's been such a center on the campus. We'll have state-of-the-art studio facilities, a museum to house the college collection, student galleries, state-of-the-art theater, 300-seat theater, acoustically perfect for music and theater and lectures. And it will be situated where we currently have Fraternity Row. And it will offset in a beautiful way the signature building, another signature building, the main building, and serve as a central access of our academic quad, as it were. So, having said that, often I get a question, well, where is Fraternity Row going? I really get questions like that. And I would say, number one is Fraternity Row has seen a lot of life. I was talking to a student this morning before I came over here, and he was discussing preparing the walls for homecoming this weekend. He said, President Samhat, I was painting a wall last week, getting ready for homecoming, trying to clean the house up, and all of a sudden the paintbrush went right through the wall. I said, really? I said, well, that wall has been thinned by lots and lots of life. There's no doubt about it. Those were coming down anyways. They were in poor condition. And so we announced over the weekend plans for a Greek village that would be situated, if you know the college, the back end of the college, along Evans Street, opposite our football stadium. There's Evans and Cummins Street, so it would be situated by Evans Street between our football stadium and tennis courts. And I think what's important about this Greek village is that it symbolizes change at Wofford College. There have been lots of changes, and change is a good thing, done right. But it symbolizes a unique dimension of change at Wofford College, and that is this. The college is now 51% women. A male college, men's college, historically, is now 51% women. 54% of the incoming class of that 487 were women. And our Greek life is constituted, 56% of our Greeks are women. So it's important that we recognize the role of women in Greek life at the college, and our goal is to build a Greek village that has not only houses for men, but houses for women as well. So there's a lot happening on the campus. A lot of good things happening, great things happening. And what you'll see rolling out are a couple of things. During the course of the rest of this term and into the next term, we'll have a facilities or a campus master plan that we'll present. We'll have a new marketing campaign and branding campaign that will be linked to our enrollment program and our development program. And all this is designed to situate us really for a development campaign, because the things we do require resources. And higher education institutions, and one like Wofford in particular, are unique in this way. We must generate resources from friends of the institution to do the things we need to do. Wofford College cannot necessarily fund its ambitions by adding students to the classroom. If we add students to the classroom, we are no longer that small, intimate, residential liberal arts experience. We grow into something bigger, larger, and different than what so many of you in this room imagine it and remember it to be. So there's a lot ahead. I think we're well positioned at the college. It's a very exciting time, and I'm delighted to be here and share that with you, and happy to take some questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dr. Saggs, I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you being here. I'm John Hinks, class of 1965.
Yes, sir.
66 or 67. I was learning the whole time. Last week I made the last payment on my student loan. 71, I'm proud to hear that. Let me ask you a question. Since you're going to tear down Fraternity Road, which we always thought it was the Performing Arts Center, and you're going to build this new center, which is going to be great. Don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's going to take you probably another year or two. What are you going to do with the fraternities during that time that you're taking to build the new fraternity houses and stuff?
Yeah, well, we won't be tearing down Fraternity Row right away. So we're in design. We've done a lot of planning. We're in the design phase. I expect we're looking at 12 to 15 months before we do anything over there. But our goal is to minimize any disruption to the activity that goes on in Fraternity Row and keep that to a bare minimum. I would not imagine we would be without houses for longer than a semester and maybe an interim at the most. That's our plan. So, but I'm sure they will find out places to have fun. Yes, sir.
Dr. Samhat, well, one, I graduated in '72, and I did my part to tear down fraternity.
Thank you so much.
Would you describe your first impression of the campus when you first saw it, when you first set foot on it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. It's an interesting place in this sense. It's a traditional looking campus with vast amounts of green space, smack in the middle of an urban area. And so that difference, when you walk into Church Street, there's a peacefulness and tranquility and beauty that is reassuring. And it's stunning. And that contrast is very sharp and profound. So our first impressions in terms of the attractiveness and beauty of the campus, it's just a beautiful campus. And it remains beautiful. And here's a call out to all the guys in the maintenance department and the grounds who spend lots and lots of time out there. I'm up in the morning having coffee in the president's house, and I can hear those leaf blowers going at 6 a.m. When I'm almost positive there are no leaves to blow. But they're out there working all the time, and they make a real difference in the attractiveness of the campus. So my first impression was, and my wife's too, was that, boy, this is a beautiful place. a beautiful place and a tranquil place in the midst of an urban environment. And of course the students were all happy. I mean, I see smiles on the students' faces. They're friendly, warm, happy, welcoming, and it's reflected in everyone in the community. It's just a warm, welcoming environment. Where we are, we're close to downtown Spartanburg, and that's very important to me. We're right across from the north side. In my view, the college has a unique responsibility to the city of Spartanburg. The well-being of Spartanburg and the well-being, say, of the north side, which is right across Church Street, and that large project redevelopment there, is very important to the future of Wofford College. We want students to come to Wofford. We want faculty to come to Wofford, staff, administrators to come to Wofford. We want to make sure that our commitment to Spartanburg is strong and sound, and do the things we can do to enhance our community to make it a more vibrant and welcoming place for students and others. So I went beyond your question. My question was, we're profoundly struck by its beauty and tranquility and the warmth of the community. And our place in Spartanburg is such that we feel we have a responsibility to support efforts in Spartanburg and the north side to make those even more vibrant communities. So.
If there's a question, can you speak on interim at some point?
Yes. Okay, well, there's a question now. Sure. Yes.
I'm not a Wofford graduate. I did graduate across the way in commerce. But I have two questions for you. One, what is Wofford's endowment? And secondly, what percent of your alumni give back financially to college?
Our endowment is about $187 million. And frankly, I think institutions to survive, small liberal arts colleges to survive, will have to have a minimum of $300 million endowment. And much of it needs to be, well, depending on how one structures their budget, much of it needs to be for funded scholarships. Because a lot of a college's budget are for scholarships and aid that are unfunded. So it comes right out of the college's budget. Every funded dollar of scholarship relieves a dollar, every funded dollar in scholarships relieves an unfunded dollar in the operating budget, which can then be used to support the programs and cap or limit rising comprehensive fees. That's the basic economic model that we work with. Our alumni giving is about 25%, 30%. 38%. Sorry. Good to have Calhoun with me.
I asked that question to put all of these Wofford graduates on the spot.
They can run it up to 45% right here and now. After we greet the new members of Rotary, Calhoun will be there. Yes, sir.
I was at Wofford back in the 60s. We had a $3 million endowment. It was nothing. Still needs to be much larger. South Carolina is most fortunate, as Lane Liggin, one of our members, can tell you, who's worked at many colleges. We have the Furmans, TCs, Woffords. Now the Newberry has really come up late. Clapton's done a great job. South Carolina is very fortunate to be a small state and have some outstanding colleges. Quick story about Wofford. A few years ago, I think 3/4 of the Supreme Court in South Carolina were Wofford graduates, and I was immodestly bragging about that one day. Said something about 3/4 of our Supreme Court were Wofford graduates, and somebody came back with a quicker retort and said, "So that's what's wrong with the legal system." I want you to know how much we appreciate your being here, being part of Wofford. Out of all the schools, we had a great time today. We thank you for continuing the tradition.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll speak about it. Well, first of all, let me say, South Carolina has an extraordinary network of private independent institutions, and they need to be strengthened. The livelihood of higher education in any state is dependent on, I think, 3 core pillars. The 2-year institutions, which will have a transformative impact in American society that is broad. The publics, which serve vast segments of American society, and the private institutions. The private institutions are often the most vulnerable. They need our support here in the state of South Carolina. And they're strong, they're thriving, but there are challenges. And so I would say that we're grateful to be a part of a great network of private institutions. As far as interim, 2 minutes. I don't see anything happening with interim other than strengthening it. It's a great, unique program and academic calendar that we have. It is different than other institutions that have so-called January terms, and that ours are required. They're project-based. So many of them are optional and basically replicate classes in a long term squeezed into a short 3 weeks. And that's no fun. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samhat. Small token, we have that. Appreciation of your time coming down here today.
Pleasure.
And Dr. Samhat, I mean, he did the campus justice, but if you're ever in Spartanburg and you've not been on Wofford's campus, I encourage you to drive right down the middle, right off Church Street there. If you have any children or grandchildren, you just need to take them there and visit and experience. It is a safe campus that truly fosters the development of young individuals. As he said, young individuals develop in college. 3 of the greatest choices I ever made was 1, going to Wofford, 2, joining the Army, 3, asking my wife to marry me, and they all happened on Wofford's campus.
Outstanding. Thank you.
President Mark, next week's program?
Yeah, sure. 2 announcements about next week. We're going to start our meeting at 12:30, and John's done a good job of getting that message out. So whatever you have to do to be here at 12:30, mark it down, write it down, put it on your calendar. The speaker is Stuart Andrews, and he's going to give us a talk on the state of mental health in South Carolina, and specifically have our prisons become psychiatric hospitals. Sounds interesting.
Thank you. That's next week's program. We'll be at 12:30. For the sake of time, we will pass on music and adjourn. Thank you.